And for the record, this is going to be from People's Proposed Exhibit 14, and it'll be picture 34. Do you recognize these shoes?
Yes, that's a pair of shoes that my mom bought for her to the birthday.
Okay, thank you. Now, back on the 9th, you said your mom was going to file a police report in the morning.
Correct.
Okay, did you go with her to file a police report in the morning?
No, it was my older sister.
Okay. Did you do anything on the 10th as it relates to trying to find Isaiah?
Yes, we went out, I and some others went out to go get some pictures, made copies. We went to other stores, passed out flyers, and everything that we need to do, like what was asked of us to do.
Okay. And since January 9th, 2024, have you seen Isaiah?
No,
Since January 9th, 2024, have you heard from Isaiah?
no.
Nothing further at this time, Judge. Thank you, Judge.
Ms. Harris, I also have some questions for you. You and Mr. Butts have been, or you've known him for about 12 years?
Correct.
And fair to say that you were in a dating relationship with him for most of that time?
Correct.
But towards the end, like last year, it was more off and on, fair to say?
No, it was on and off for years.
For years, okay. But you have 5 children with him?
Correct.
And this relationship that you had with him, even towards the end when it was on, it was a sexual relationship, right?
Correct.
Sometimes you go to a motel to have sex with him?
Correct. When, yes.
And that motel was the Park Crest Inn?
Or the SharePoint.
There was more than one?
Multiples, yes.
Okay. But one of them was the Park Crest? Said yes?
Correct.
And it's in Harper Woods?
Correct.
On Harper?
Correct.
Okay. Do you know if Mr. Butts, or do you suspect that Mr. Butts has taken other women to those motels also?
Correct.
You do?
Mm.
I believe you said that you have, of your 5 children with him, 2 are girls
Yes.
and 3 are boys.
Correct.
And in January of this time, well, January 2023, you were living with your mother on Bedford, correct?
Correct.
Prior to that, were you living in Clinton Township?
Correct.
When did you leave the Clinton Township home and move to the Bedford home?
October 23.
And so there were times when you were in Clinton Township that Mr. Butts would travel out there to see the kids,
Correct.
and then when you moved to the Bedford address, he would go to the Bedford address to see the kids.
Correct.
And then the Bedford address is when Isaiah was also living there, correct?
Correct.
And I believe you just testified that on January the 9th, you were living at that house? on
Correct.
Bedford, and you were there during the day?
Correct.
And so were you one of the first people that realized that Isaiah did not come home when she was expected to be home?
Well, I didn't realize it until I had got a question by the other kids had asked, did I have Naziah came home yet, or have I seen her? And I said no.
Do you remember what time that was in the afternoon?
That was in the evening. My mom picked them up 6 o'clock.
So that was about 3 hours later than she normally should have been home?
Correct.
Was that surprising?
Yes, it was. One, we thought that she was at the after-school program, but it didn't dawn on no one until my mom came back to the house, and she wasn't here or she wasn't in the car when they had got in the car.
And so when you all realized that she wasn't at school and she wasn't at home, was that surprising?
Yes.
But you didn't go to the police that night.
No.
Did she ever not return home previously?
No, this is her first time ever doing this.
Did she have friends in the neighborhood that she would go visit?
Yes.
And you said, I think, are those the folks that you contacted to ask?
Yes.
You were just shown a pair of red and black Nike shoes, right?
Correct.
And you identified those shoes as being Nazia's shoe. Is that correct?
Correct.
It's a shoe that looks like the shoe that Nazia is wearing, correct?
Correct. Correct.
You can't say for sure that that exact
Yes, her-
shoe came from Nazia, is that fair to say?
Correct.
Okay. And I think you testified that very rarely would you ever use text now to contact Mr. Butts.
Right.
Only if your phone was turned off,
Right.
and that was not very often.
Right.
Would Nazia ever have access to your phone to use it?
Yes, like she would ask, hey, TT, can I see your phone? Sure, I wouldn't mind. Yes.
And so would she text from that phone?
Probably, yes.
Did you ever notice any text from
No.
her on your phone?
No.
Did you ever notice if she had used your Text Now app?
No, the only time when I would notice something is say if me and Jarvis would we won't be on the same page seeing eye to eye, and I will call him and he say why you will call me, or like why you continue to keep calling me, and I would say I haven't called you all day or in 2 days. Then I will go ask my kids like, hey, are y'all calling your dad because I haven't called him.
Okay. And until you looked in Nazia's Instagram account, did you ever notice anything on your phone that caused you to be concerned?
No.
Between Nazia and Mr. Butts?
No.
And Mr. Butts, we said, would come to the house to see his kids.
Correct.
He would drop them off at the house sometimes. He would take them places.
Yes.
He would pick Janiyah up from there.
Like he, depending on like if he will pick up the kids, if I need him to pick up the kids from the pickup or drop off spot, for school, he will do that, yeah.
And then take them either to Clinton Township when you lived there, or to the Bedford Street address?
Correct.
Okay. But most times he wouldn't even come to the house, right?
He will come to the house, he will call me first before he will come.
Would he come into the house physically, or would he sit in his truck outside?
50%. He will sit in the car and wait till the kids come outside, or he will knock on the door.
Okay. Would he be in the house for any length of time?
Only if I'm inside the house,
Like if he was visiting with you?
yes.
Okay. So you never knew a time that Mr. Butts would have been alone in the house with Nazia?
No.
You can't think of a time when he had been in the house and had gone down to the basement with her?
No.
Or any other room in the house alone?
No.
Would Mr. Butts have ever been at that house if another adult, like you or your mother, weren't there?
He will, what you said,
Would Mr. Butts ever be at the house if you or your mother weren't there?
no. It will be me or another person.
The idea that anything was going on between Mr. Butts and Nazia is shocking to you, right?
Correct.
You had no idea.
No.
You never noticed anything between Nazia and Mr. Butts that made you concerned?
No.
You never saw any inappropriate behavior?
Not at all.
You didn't notice Mr. Butts paying any special attention to her?
No.
Certainly, if you had noticed that, that would have caused you concern.
Yeah, it would have raised a whole bunch of red flags.
Likely, you wouldn't have invited him into the house, correct?
Correct.
You found it hard to believe even that Mr. Butts would hurt Messiah.
But I won't know, I don't know, what he will do if a person's back is up against the wall.
But the thought of that was hard for you, at least at one point, to believe,
Yeah.
correct?
Correct.
Now, during the time that you and Mr. Butts were together, he's had children with other women,
Correct.
pretty consistently with other women,
Correct.
more than one woman.
Correct.
Some of those women you actually knew about, correct?
Correct.
They lived kind of even in the same neighborhood on the east side.
Correct.
But you suspect that there were women that you didn't know about?
Correct.
Even one that lived, or more than one that lived over on the west side?
Correct.
You believe he was going out there to see somebody around the end of 2023, January 2024?
Correct.
Before January the 9th, you had a conversation with Naziah about a location on Outer Drive in Belfour,
Yes.
and that was surprising to you, right?
Correct.
That's on the east side of Detroit.
Yes.
Did you end up giving her directions on how to get to that location?
Yes.
Why did you give her directions?
I was just getting out the shower and just getting myself together. She asked me, she said, "Hey, Titi," she said, "where is Belford and Outer Drive?" And I told her, I said, "You know exactly where Belford and Outer Drive at." I said, "Outer Drive is right where the wine basket at." And I said, "You know where Belford at?" And she was like, "I get Balfour and Bedford mixed up." So I said, "You already know Belford is before Bedford." So she said, "Okay." She said, "Because we are in school and we are learning about our surroundings." So I said, "Okay." But that was the only two things that she had asked, was where was Outer Drive and Balfour at.
Does that location have any special significance to you?
No.
Do you know anybody at that location?
No, the only thing that I'm used to, I'm familiarized with just picking up Jarvis Outer Drive in Belford. It's just on a corner.
On a corner?
Mm-hmm.
Not at an address?
Not on the dress.
Okay. When was this conversation that you had about that location? Do you recall?
This was right before Naziah went missing.
Like, how soon before? Weeks?
Maybe it was still in that same week she went missing.
Mr. Butts didn't have his own vehicle, fair to say?
No, he didn't.
He generally used,
His female's vehicles.
did you know Mr. Butts to park at one location and maybe walk to another to kind of try to remain undetected?
Pretty much, yes.
So would it be not out of the ordinary for you to have to pick him up at a random, or what seemed to be a random location to you?
Correct.
You lived with Naziah for, you said, from about October until January the 9th.
Correct.
So you spent a lot of time around her?
Yes.
You knew her mannerisms,
Yes.
her demeanor,
Yes.
her moods.
Yes.
Did anything strike you as out of the ordinary about how she was acting at any point in time in December or January before she disappeared?
No, Naziah, nothing have changed her character, none of that. She was just the same old Naziah. Nothing was different.
Naziah has a brother, right?
Yes.
Is it an older brother?
Yes.
Now, he had run away in 2023, is that right?
Yes.
Objection relevance.
How was it relevant? If it's something that had bothered her or something that she was dealing with at the time, could cause a change in her demeanor.
Okay. Overruled.
So she did have a brother that ran away,
Correct.
and was that something that she struggled with?
She didn't like the fact that her brother was running away. Yes, she didn't like it.
Around the same time, around the time, December, January, was her mother supposed to come visit, her biological mother?
Yes.
Did she end up coming to see Naziah?
Yes.
She did. Did Naziah seem to have some big emotions about that contact?
Yes.
It was complicated, fair to say?
Yes.
Did she talk to you about that?
All the time.
Did you notice anything? You said you didn't notice anything in a changing mood. So
No.
what about physically?
No.
I don't have anything else, thank you.
Can you redirect?
Did you go to the Park Crest Inn on January 9th, 2024, Mr.
No.
Fox?
No.
And fair to say, you knew of Mr. Butts having other female friends?
Yes.
Okay. And even some that you didn't know about?
Correct.
Okay. So would it be fair to say that you don't always know, or you didn't always know what Mr. Butts was doing?
No.
You couldn't account for his whereabouts every minute of the day?
No.
Did you know him to, one of those cars that he would use, did you know him to have a white Escalade type truck?
Correct. Yes.
And you were asked some questions about Outer Drive and Balfour. Fair to say, from what I gathered, the only connection you have to that area is Jarvis Butts.
Correct.
Okay, so he's the only one you would associate with that area.
Correct.
And you knew Mr. Butts to have other children?
Correct.
Okay, and you knew him to have clearly have gotten other women pregnant?
Correct.
And to your knowledge, were all those women adults?
To my knowledge, yes.
Did he, to you, ever hide getting another woman pregnant?
No.
Nothing further, Judge.
Okay, you are done testifying. Please watch your step. Thank you.